You're live.
Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, with our big Wednesday night kickoff with Florida State Seminoles live every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Listen to this, boys. Before I introduce you, keep in mind that the 3-hour grind is probably going to be 4 or 5 or more this Wednesday night, because in addition to Florida State at 7 o'clock, Miami at 8, Ohio State at 9, the 10 o'clock live stream will unveil my 2019 college football season predictions live.
Woo! 9-3 for FSU, right? That's what you got to
be attached to this chair by the end of the night.
That's happening tonight.
I may, since Willie Taggart typically coaches a 5-7 Florida State team, maybe that's the direction I'm going. I don't know. All right, folks, we've got Jason Parker on the top of the screen from Chop Chat, and also Logan Robinson from Knoll Game Day. How are you boys doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm actually a little bit upset. I'm not going to lie that James is not with us today, big game James Coleman, because James has been the promoter of the social media trend of the Popeyes versus Chick-fil-A. And then we'll look at Popeyes for dinner tonight. Shout out to Popeyes. Popeyes, we need you to sponsor us. Get at Mark Rogers TV. Talk to him. We need sponsorship for this show.
Yeah. So is this clearly showing, Jason, your allegiance?
Oh, absolutely. Popeyes, 100%.
Wow. Well, I was wondering if you're going to say that over Chick-fil-A.
Destroyed Chick-fil-A. Destroyed. I literally have lost 50 pounds in the last 6 months, and I think I've gained it all back just eating their sandwiches in the last week. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay. Jason and I were talking about this before we came on live. I was trying to recall whether I've even been to a Popeyes. I believe I have one time, and it obviously wasn't that significant a day in my life because I don't really recall. Chick-fil-A, you know, I've had my 25 or 30 trips to Chick-fil-A. That has been slow to come to the Northeast, so I've had to travel other places and get my Chick-fil-A, although they've made it into the boundaries of Connecticut here in the last couple of years. But yeah, Chick-fil-A is first rate. The service at Chick-fil-A is phenomenal.
The Popeyes, you get the spicy chicken sandwich. You get that. You get it with the dirty rice. You got to get a little bit of the blackened ranch sauce that goes with the dirty rice, because I'm sorry, I'm a little bit of a wuss with that. And then to drink, here's the shocker. You go with the ginger ale to drink. It's it's refreshing. It's nice and cold. And also get a biscuit on the side, because that's how we do it.
Well, how long did that also take in the drive-thru? Did you go through drive-thru?
Let me tell you real quick, before we get into talking about FSU football. The line was a half a mile down the main road here in South Florida, Hollywood and Pembroke Pines. It's called University. It was half a mile down the road. I literally had to wait a half an hour just to get in. Just to park. When I went inside, waited another 20 minutes. Worth every minute of it.
I don't know if that would happen at Chick-fil-A. I think you'd be in 15 minutes.
Chick-fil-A.
Exactly right. This leads me into my quick story about Chick-fil-A service, is that I was out in Colorado. The Chick-fil-A was tucked away in a plaza parking lot. The line was so long, the line to the drive-thru, that it wrapped around the plaza, was out on the main road. And so we thought, okay, you're going to have to drop me off and I'll get our stuff. Well, obviously, if the line's going to be that long for the drive-thru, the line was outside in the parking lot for just the people line into the and I thought, okay, I'm kind of nerdy about this. So I'm like, okay, anytime I go to a restaurant and they say, we can serve you in 25 minutes, we can seat you, I always look at my watch to say, okay, it took them 42 minutes. They said 25 kind of thing. So I look, and seriously, within like 8 minutes, I was standing at the counter. It was incredible. I could not believe it.
Listen, I mean no disrespect to Chick-fil-A. I will still, as long as they have Chick-fil-A breakfast, the Chick-fil-A breakfast is still delicious. But I'm saying, if Popeyes decides to start serving a breakfast menu on their biscuits and whatnot, it's game over. Chick-fil-A will have to shut down. I'm marking that down right now. And besides, Popeyes, at Mark Rogers TV, all right? We need sponsors. This will be Popeyes FSU football preview. I don't mind. I don't mind at all. At least it's with blood or something.
They're going to have the money for it. Absolutely.
Jason, when you do that, if you could center up the cup on the camera shot a little bit better, maybe we would be able to secure the sponsor. Thank you.
Right there.
Thank you. And so everyone who is collected here, 40 people to listen to Florida State football talk, we will get to it. Yes, we're going to start right now after I acknowledge Kyle Pickett's weekly comment that I just had to post to the screen right here that he somehow wants me to be a vice presidential candidate in 2020. It hasn't elevated me to presidential candidate, but VP, because where's the power? So he's kind of thinking maybe I'm a figurehead. I don't know what he's looking for there, but Kyle, I appreciate the sentiment.
You sure you want that job? I mean, guys like Al Gore, Mike Pence, Joe Biden. I mean, are you sure you want that job?
Are we making political statements here, Jason?
No, absolutely not. I really don't do that. I mean, you want that job. I mean, right here,
it pays more than my current job. I'm guessing.
You're Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football here. Do you want to be vice president, Mark Rogers?
Yeah, I've kind of placed myself in some type of guru status, so I really don't want to be downgraded from there.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, as Jason reminds us, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. This is our Florida State live show each and every Wednesday night. It's our 13th edition. Jason Parker on the line, and also Logan Robinson. All right, talk about a lofty position, a very status-driven position in college football. That would be Florida State starting quarterback. That we could argue is the most important job in the state. Now I'll elevate it above the University of Florida in Miami and get those people riled up. So there is somewhat of a distinction, somewhat of a speculation that maybe James Blackman has not distinguished himself yet. Jason.
Well, to listen to what the coaches have said, or actually it's more what the coaches have not said. And Coach Taggart has been very clear that he wants the best quarterback for the job, but he has not yet named James Blackman as that starting quarterback. To me, and we still have 10 days to go until Florida State takes on Boise State, but I kind of feel like you want that starting quarterback to be known. You want him to be comfortable in that position. Do I think James Blackman will be the starter when Florida State plays Boise State? Of course. And I think Logan would feel the same way. But it does say something. Is Alex Cornybrook or Jordan Travis, now that Jordan Travis has finally been cleared by the NCAA, are they really in competition? Has it really been one of the things where they have been that good? Has James Blackman not been as good as we thought? Or is it one of those things where they're just keeping things hidden until we get close to the Boise State game? I'm really hoping that it's that third one right there, because if one of those two is able to compete with James Blackman at this point, FSU might be having a little bit of a problem at that position.
Yeah, and touching on what Jason said, I think this is kind of a thing where Willie Taggart is trying to say, there's a competition being held, which, of course, you brought in Alex Cornybrook to compete with James Blackman, which I think is a great thing to do. He went from Wisconsin all the way over here in his last year playing college football. You also have Jordan Travis, who just got his waiver while Al was gone. So that adds up the competition. A lot of levels. We saw Jordan Travis get onto campus early at Florida State. He played in the spring game also, and he's been here for a little while. So there's obviously competition, but is there much of a battle going on as of right now where I think James Blackman is getting a majority of those first team reps whenever the media is gone? I think the battle's kind of over. I think James Blackman will be named the starter this week, in my opinion. I think that's the way it should be, but is there a battle? No, I think Florida State has had a leader the last maybe 3 years, even in 2017 when we heard about him talking to the team before they played Alabama. As we know, DeAndre Francois was going to be the starter then, who eventually got hurt in that game. And then James Blackman would finish off that season. But we've heard things definitely last year that James Blackman was a big leader. Even some players were a little public about it, kind of throwing some shade that James Blackman is a better leader than DeAndre Francois. And I think this is only going to do good things for Florida State whenever James Blackman does get announced to start. I think earlier the better for this, but it seems like Willie Taggart wants to keep it going a little bit farther because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think it's time to name him the starter and get the reins rolling with him.
Jordan Travis was the 25th rated dual threat quarterback coming out of high school. He had committed in June of 2017. He's in the 2018 class. Obviously, we've not seen him with live bullets firing away. So he was a pretty high prospect, not elite prospect. But certainly we've seen 25th rated quarterbacks in the nation become superstars. And Alex Hornibrook, his skill set limited, but a wealth of experience, and he can sling it. He may not be ideal for this offense, as we've discussed in the past, but James Blackman, I would think, would have the best combination of skill set, athleticism, and knowledge of the offense and experience. I can't imagine that he won't be the starter. As Logan pointed out, I think it's healthy to say, without an established guy, it's healthy to say, we've got a wide open competition. We're going to hit camp the first week of August, and these boys are going to battle it out, as I try not to spill my water. And then, but at a healthy duration prior to game one, name that starter. Don't make it a last second decision to spring on the rest of the team. Give them the week to 10 days to know, okay, we know it's James. He's the guy. He's the leader. Let's roll.
Well, but let's also remember one thing. In a way, James Blackman already is a quote-unquote established starter because he does have 13 starts under his belt. And I think some people tend to forget he did start all but one game in that 2017 season as a true freshman who was 1 year removed from playing high school football down here in Palm Beach County. So he is established. I think you can trust him. I'm going to just go with say that Coach Taggart is just playing the game. It's just, he's just trying to keep things a little bit interesting. And Mark, just so you know, you wouldn't spill water if you had a nice Popeyes glass. Popeyes is the official sponsor of FSU Seminoles chat here on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.
And I think, like Mark said, I think it's time to go ahead and announce the starter. Announce the starter now. Definitely, if you know that you feel comfortable having a leader, and Taggart already talked about, and other coaches have, and of course the players have, James Blackman is the biggest leader on the team. It's time to name him the starter and then move on and get ready for Boise State. Just already have that firm noting that, your quarterback is back there. And, you also have great depth now, so there's not that too much to worry about. You've got Alex Hornibrook and you got Jordan Travis. And it's not saying that some of them won't play during the season, but it's time to go ahead and name the starting quarterback. Definitely when you already have a solidified leader right there, the biggest on the team.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, bringing you college football discussion, debate, and analysis each and every day. We talk Florida State here every Wednesday night. And, of course, next week is going to be just prior to the big opener against Boise State in Jacksonville, and a big breakdown on the Broncos versus the Noles. We'll look at the matchups and size it all up for you. Of course, leave your comments, questions, and I will remind Jason and Logan if there's anything that I missed that you guys are able to see on the feed that you want to address. Certainly, just fire away. And as Kyle Pickett points out here, hit that like button, hit the like button, then go to the ballot box and vote me in as vice presidential nominee in 2020.
And then stop and get a chicken sandwich.
And do that and get us a sponsorship. You can do it all, Kyle.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Listen, I've worked in television long enough. I know about the corporate eyes and whatnot. We'll take whatever money we get here at Mark Rogers TV.
Oh, we will. Yes, we will. Players back from injury. So there's a number of very key, notable guys who have been nicked up. Nothing too serious, but still, before there are any shots fired, you would like to have these guys fully healthy and ready for Boise State. So what's the latest, Logan?
So coming into fall practice and camp, we knew that Tamarion Terry was not going to be a full participant, or if not even participant at all, for a couple of weeks. As of this week on Monday, Tamarion Terry got his first practice, and he was a full participant. Looked like he was working on his speed a little bit and getting back in the field work with James Blackman. Of course, the media only gets a few minutes there pretty much to see some simple drills going on, but we've heard he was a full participant. So that's good news there. So when we saw that Tamarion Terry was going to be out, we were excited to see some of these younger guys and guys coming up on that wide receiver unit to come up and get some playing time, and they got some practice time. So maybe the staff liked what they saw from some of the younger guys. And we'll see what that will entail going into the early part of the season with what Ron Dugans wants to put some of this, which I think is a stacked position group, what he wants to do with these guys, definitely like Warren Thompson and Keyshawn Helton. Marvin Wilson also returned after missing a little bit of time. That's good news there. He was also a full participant. Malcolm Ray, a freshman, his right ankle was taped, but he was back. Christian Meadows also back at practice. Levante Taylor, I believe, missed one practice, and he's now back playing. Warner is still missing a little bit of time. He was most recently moved from linebacker down to defensive end. We'll keep an eye on that. Haven't heard much about it. But Leonard Warner is dealing with a little injury right now. Another one, which me and Jason can talk about, is Leonard Warner, Joshua Kando, who's been dealing with injuries through his whole career at Florida State. And a lot of fans are looking for him to be that big guy. You know, we've always had like Brian Burns, Josh Sweat, who would come off that edge. Joshua Kando is still dealing with a little bit of injury stuff. It seems like it's either down and up. He most recently was at practice, I believe last night, if I'm correct, Jason. And just it's always up and down with him through his career. You know, last year we didn't see full production from him because he was dealing with, I believe it was shoulder stuff happening with them. But that's been a problem with him for a little while now, and we're going to keep an eye on it. So I'm going to go and give it to Jason to talk about Kando there.
Yeah, no, I mean, you mentioned the one name that I would put him with is Josh Sweat. I mean, in a lot of ways, Josh Sweat came in the 2015 class, was, you know, one of the top recruits in the country, and never really achieved, I think, the level that he thought he was going to be because of injuries. I think Kando has that potential to be a better player than him. This is going to be the question. This is Kando's line right now as far as the end position, as far as playing kind of that in the when they do go to a 3-4 defense or 3-4 set. He's going to be the man who's going to be in charge of being similar to what Brian Burns was. So that's going to be the question. Is he ready for that next level? Right now, he is a good complementary defensive end. He was a great complementary defensive end for Brian Burns. Can he be the man now? That's going to be the question. You know, he doesn't need a 4-sack game like DeMarcus Walker had against Ole Miss back in 2016, though we'll take it. I'll take all those sacks. But he needs to show up this season. And injuries happen, but he needs to show up.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And like, hopefully it's mainly that injury, and they're gonna have to rely on him a lot. So hopefully put some bubble wrap on him for the next 10 days, 9 days.
I'd like to know what Devin Brown, sorry Florida doesn't schedule a tougher schedule at number 4 in the country. We'll try to step up our games with those ACC teams FSU plays. You're right. I mean, we played the defending national champions in Clemson. We play Florida. I mean, that is a weaker opponent, I guess. We play Miami. We play Boise State team that could end up being the group of 5 representative. You guys are playing us, a team that went 5-7 last year, a Miami team that went 7-6, and 2 FCS teams. Mazel tov. You guys are amazing in Gainesville. Mazel tov.
Okay, Jason, what did you stir up with somebody else? What got going here? What got Devin all uptight about Florida's schedule? What did you say? What did you do, Jason?
I don't know who the hell Devin Brown is. I mean, shout out for the old Florida Gator logo. I'll give him some credit for that one. I went to high school with a Devin Brown. I don't think he was a Gator fan. But no, I mean, yes, obviously the SEC is a tougher conference than the ACC right now. It's right now Clemson is up here and the rest of the ACC is down here, as opposed to the SEC having a few teams, Georgia, Alabama. I think Florida's on that cusp. LSU's on that cusp of being one of those elite teams. So yes, I'm being sarcastic. You have a great conference schedule, a 4-game slate that might kill your chances of making the playoffs this year, right in the middle of the season, and then you have a bunch of cupcakes in the non-conference, and then you're going to lose to Florida State on November 30th.
Now, must we dive into the Mark Rogers TV Voice of College Football schedule rankings?
You go for it.
To decide this dispute?
Is that ranking sponsored by anyone yet?
Not yet. Either Popeyes or Chick-fil-A soon. We've mentioned them enough. So, as Jason and I discussed a couple months ago, the Florida State schedule in 2018 was rather daunting. I had you rank, I think, number 1 in the country is, I believe, somewhere in the top 5. Now, for this particular season, though, I've got this Florida schedule at number 9 in college football. It's a tough schedule.
There's a 4-game stretch right there where they take on Auburn, LSU, South Carolina, and Georgia that I would argue is right up there with the stretch that Florida State played last year of Clemson, at Clemson at home, at NC State, at Notre Dame, Boston College, and then at Florida, which included 2 playoff teams, another team that went to a New Year's Six bowl game, and then 2 teams who went to bowl games as well. So yes, I will give Florida credit for that schedule part as far as the SEC schedule. As far as non-conference, don't sit here and talk about, oh, well, since we played such a tough SEC schedule, that's our excuse for playing a weaker non-conference schedule. Yes, it's great, and we've talked about this. Florida and Miami should play every year. I'm glad that they've scheduled a series for 2024 and 2025. I want to still play Florida every year. But don't sit here and schedule 2 FCS foes and then talk to me how tough your schedule is. Because I'm sorry, with all due respect, you are going to still play Vanderbilt. You're going to play Missouri. You're going to play a Kentucky. Oh, that's right, Kentucky beat them last year. You're going to play a Tennessee team that you've beaten basically the last decade and a half, except for one time. So there are plenty of maybe not cupcakes, but easier games along the way. And yes, the SEC is still tougher. I will give credit. The SEC is a tougher conference all around than the ACC right now at this point.
Right now at this point, and in every year preceding, except maybe one. There's no comparison between these conferences year to year.
I'm sorry, who won the national title last year? I think it was a team from the weak ACC, right? Sure.
How many teams are in the ACC? 1 or 14?
14.
Come on, Jason, please. Let's not argue the ACC and the SEC, please. It's not an argument. It's not even close.
Right now, the SEC is a tougher all-around conference. But
it is every year.
No, not every year.
Maybe in 2016. 2016, the ACC jumped up there with the help of Florida State beating Michigan in the Orange Bowl, finishing in the top 10. That was a banner year for the ACC, and it was certainly a debate that year, and I talked about it month after month after month about how the ACC played as well that particular year. I didn't think it was as good, but the results on the field spoke to the ACC being just as good as the SEC that particular season.
So you have
that rarely, if ever, happens.
So you have Alabama and Georgia right now that you would consider the elite teams in the SEC, correct?
Yes.
You would say those are the 2 elite teams. Those are the 2 standard bearers right now.
Yes.
Would you say Florida is an elite college football team right now at this
No,
point?
They're not elite.
Would you say LSU is an elite college football team at this point?
They are on a 3rd tier.
Would you say Auburn is an elite team at this point?
No.
No, that's my point. Right now, the SEC relies on what Alabama does and of the last couple of years, what Georgia does. Luckily for them, they have been doing amazing things. Alabama has been in the playoff all 5 years it has existed. Georgia playing for the national title a couple of years ago. So the top part of the SEC is outstanding. The bottom half of the SEC is right up there with the bottom half of the ACC, right up there with the bottom half of the Big Ten, Pac-12. You can Mark Rogers TV, voice of college.
You're taking the bottom half of the ACC against the bottom half of the SEC. Seriously.
I'm saying that right now that both conferences have their elite teams. The SEC has Georgia and Alabama. The ACC has Clemson. Is there a further area between Clemson and the second-rate teams in the ACC, like the Virginia Tech, the Virginia, the Miami, and I'll say Florida State? Of course. Is there a shorter distance between the Alabamas and Georgias and where Florida and LSU? Absolutely. And if Florida goes out and dog stomps Miami, which could happen, yes, 100% will give credit. What I'm saying is those who say that the SEC is a better all-around conference and is the best all-around conference, I would put the Big Ten as a better all-around conference at this point right now. Now, in 14 weeks, when it's Championship Saturday, am I going to have that same opinion? Probably not. But right now, at this point, the SEC is not the best all-around conference.
The SEC is not the best overall conference.
Right now, the best all-around. If you rank the 14 teams, no, it's not.
Okay. I'm going to ask you one simple question, Jason. Who was the second best team in the ACC last year? Who was the number 2 seed in the ACC last year?
Regardless of division, just any.
Yes.
Probably Syracuse.
Syracuse. They were. They distinguished themselves. They beat NC State head-to-head. They had 10 wins. They were the number 2 seed.
Absolutely. And Georgia would have destroyed them.
Would you feel confident taking Syracuse on the field against LSU, Texas A&M, Auburn, Kentucky, Florida, all those teams last year?
Against Florida, yes. Against Texas A&M,
absolutely
yes.
not. No, Syracuse is not beating Florida. No. All right, people want us to talk Florida State football. We need to talk Florida State football.
I think, see,
Here we go.
This is what happens when Mark has the big mic there. He just wants to sit here, right?
My apologies to everyone because I need to rein this in and control it. And I can argue conference standings and rankings. I could do that all night. I love those conversations. Logan, get us back on track with something relevant to the beloved garnet and whatever else you guys wear. Is it gold?
Gold. Garnet gold.
Garnet gold. I saw a question earlier on here that I'll bring up about the special team situation, and it was asking about Logan Tyler and Ricky Aguayo.
Okay, you talk and I'll show something to finish my point. I had Florida State at number 38 this year in my schedule rankings. Fire away, Logan. I'm done.
Jason, we have to mute Jason's mic for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
So, and I believe the question was asked. I can't scroll up fast enough, but the question was asking, have we heard anything about him so far? There really hasn't been much update with special teams. You don't really hear that much unless there's a big competition going on. They do have Ryan Fitzgerald coming in, a true freshman who is one of the top 10 kickers in high school coming in that could compete with Ricky Aguayo. But I do think your solidified starters, of course, is Logan Tyler. His problem has been inconsistency, but he does, in my opinion, he does have the strongest leg on the team. And I think he'll, of course, be the solidified starter. Then you go over to Ricky Aguayo, and it starts getting interesting. If Fitzgerald has had a good fall camp and they feel comfortable with him, and Ricky Aguayo in those first couple of games isn't hitting it right, then you could see Fitzgerald coming in and getting some kicking time. I think that might be something to watch. But right now, those two guys are your solidified starters. I don't want to BS you or say any kind of lies like we've been hearing some stuff going on. When it comes to special teams and kickers and all that kind of stuff, you really don't hear a lot. And so that I just wanted to answer that comment that I saw a little bit earlier.
Well, we should talk about it at FSU because kickers have kept us from how many national titles back in the 90s and
just a few.
Well, not just a couple of them.
I remember I was still a baby.
I was a child wondering why my dad was cursing inside Doe Campbell back in 1991. Like, Dad, what's going on? What? Oh, we just lost. Okay, got it. All right. I was like 8. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that I think that of all the players right now, of all the returning starters, I think that Ricky Aguayo has the most to lose because I think some people tend to forget he came in as he was the next Aguayo. I mean, his brother was arguably the greatest college kicker, one of the greatest college kickers, at least of this century, maybe in the last 50 years of the game. He comes in that first game against Ole Miss as a true freshman in 2016 and nails 6 field goals, sets a record. And all of a sudden, everyone's acting like he's, he's going to be better than Roberto ever was. Since then, I mean, he's at, I believe it's a 64% completion, 64% as far as conversions. That's not what you want from a kicker, especially during a season where there's going to be plenty of games where FSU is going to need special teams. So if Ryan Fitzgerald is the guy who can come in here and he's got a leg, and you see Aguayo, to me, and nothing personal against kickers, I'm going to have a short leash with him. If he misses a couple kicks against Boise State, it might be time to start Ryan Fitzgerald against Louisiana Monroe. So Thank you. Cornelius Walker, thank you for once again proving me correct.
Proving. There's a lot of facts backing up that statement, Jason. Yeah, I don't see any there.
Bottom feeder SEC teams like Florida get on my nerves. Once again, Cornelius Walker is bringing the truth. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I'm sorry you're wrong. Just like when you said Willie Taggart was the 12th best coach in the ACC, and he's really a top 5 coach. It's fine. I get it. You're new to this game. I understand. We will get you up on this FSU game as the season goes on.
Logan, does he realize I could remove him from the stream at any time? I've got my mouse hovering over the button.
You love it.
Well, I don't know what kind of drug what do they put in that Popeye thing?
Yeah, this ginger roll is amazing.
Yeah, it's got to be having something either in the drink or the chicken.
Man.
Logan, what I just learned was that bottom feeder equals 10-3, top 10 in the country. That's feeder.
Thank you, Mark. No, obviously Florida's not a bottom feeder team. Yes, you're the number 8 preseason team. You're not a bottom feeder team. But I think the point is the fact that, like I said, is the SEC a very good conference? Yes. Is it stacked of elite teams at the top, and then a bunch of teams in the middle who are like, yeah, are we there? Do we want to be elite? What happens if Florida goes 7-5 this year? Which could happen.
How many elite teams are in the country? That's the actual definition of elite. There's not like 37 of them.
I'd say Clemson's elite right now. I would say
if there were like 37 of them, they wouldn't be elite. So there's only a couple in the country. So there's only going to be one or two in a conference.
Clemson's elite. Alabama's elite. Georgia's elite. I'd say Oklahoma right now is elite. I'd say Ohio State would be considered elite. I have a surprise.
I'm right there with you.
I have a surprise pick in the Pac-12. If we're going to do conference predictions so far, I think USC is going to be elite this year. I think USC is going to bounce back and win the Pac-12. Yes, hot take. That's what we're doing, hot takes here. Now,
that's good stuff. Did everyone get that? USC is going to be elite this year.
USC.
Otherwise, you do understand, Jason, you came up with 5 elite teams and 2 were in the SEC.
Yes. So congratulations, too. What about the rest? And I said earlier, would you consider Florida and LSU elite teams? And you said no. So you can't say the SEC is this elite, so much better than everyone else conference. They're not.
By definition, you cannot have the entire conference be elite. They have to play each other. Teams have to lose. Every game that's played, Jason, involves a loser of the game. So somebody's got to lose the games when they play each other.
Ask Paul Feinbaum and the friends over at the SEC Network about whether the SEC is the elite and everyone's an elite and Vanderbilt could beat Ohio State and blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. The SEC is a top-heavy conference. There, I said it. Boom. Moving on. Next subject, backpacks.
All right.
Backpacks. There's another question on here. I'm finding like
we'll go with the backpacks. Meanwhile, my homework, I'm sorry, Logan, and I'll get you right to it. My homework for Jason is to take any seat. You rank the teams in every conference. Okay. You pick whatever number out of your mind, 8, 4, whatever it is, and you take the 4th best team or the 8th best team or the 12th best team, whatever it is, in every conference, and I will take the team from the SEC against whatever other teams are in that same position.
That would be LSU last year. So you would take LSU over anyone else. You would trust Coach O, Farmer Fran, over anyone else.
LSU was the 3rd best team in the SEC last year.
Shout out to the state of Louisiana. LSU, we love you.
Okay, Logan, take it away. We're talking Florida State. Here we go.
We get little commercials with conference talk. There was a question here, which I know Jason can definitely talk about too, with Levante Taylor. So he had a rough season last year, and Rob is asking about, what's the word on Levante Taylor? He's been quiet from camp reports, lots of hype, but making a switch to the back end of the secondary. How's he handling the adjustments? So on my end, I've been hearing good things. I think this is a better fit. I think this is what the fit has to be for him too. I think Asante Samuel Jr. is your lockdown other corner. You've got Stanford Samuels, who is other solidified starter. So Levante Taylor, this is where he had to go. From what we've heard during camp and during the spring, from whenever they made that transition, he's had a solid start at it. We'll see how it works during a real game, but I still think this all depends on how Barnett is going to run this defense too. I think he's going to be moved down a little bit during games, quite a bit. And another note is he was just, I think it was just announced by him or somewhere, or he just had a daughter. So I think this is going to play a different role for him. And mentally, I think he was kind of all over the place last year, but also he was dealing with injury too. I think you should see a pretty more Levante Taylor that we were looking forward to seeing last year and what we were used to seeing the year before, because he came in as the top cornerback, was a top corner coming in at Florida State, and he's got the potential there to be great. It just depends on where he is as a free safety, wherever they move him down. It'll be interesting to see. But we've heard good things about him. I know it's been kind of quiet. It's been a pretty quiet camp so far. The last couple of weeks, Taggart has locked down a lot of things, a lot more than last year. I think that's a good thing, but it's been very, very quiet, and it's been very noticeable from other outlets, from what I've heard too.
The word that I would say, first of all, George, you're wrong. Okay, anyway, moving on. We'll get back to George in a moment there on that one. The word I would use for Levante Taylor is overrated. And I'm not calling him overrated at this point. Could he be that way if he doesn't have a monster senior season? Yes, because of the fact that he came in as one of the top 10 recruits in the country. He was arguably the best defensive back that Florida State had brought in since LaMarcus Joyner, since Ronald Darby, since all these guys had come in. He was going to carry the load of being DBU. And what has he done? I mean, he had 2 interceptions against Florida, 1 return for a touchdown in the 2017 game. What has he really done that has earned that status to be considered one of the top defensive backs in the country, much less even one of the top defensive backs in Tallahassee? This is going to be his year. I don't need an interception every game. I don't need the Thorpe Award. I don't need any of that stuff. I just need consistent play out of him. Otherwise, he is going to be arguably the most overrated FSU player in recent memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that injury last year was a problem of it, and I think it was a lot mentally. He's very, from what I've heard, he's very high on himself, and I think he got set back to earth last year. He was getting beat on a lot of routes. He was also getting mossed quite a bit, and I think a lot of these players need a lot of mental change. I mean, even Cam Akers too, and in the offensive line, that's a whole different story. But he was trying a little bit too much last year. It wasn't like his freshman year. So I think a lot of this goes mentally in there. I think you should see a different product from him, and I do like the change for him. I think he would work a little bit better where Barnett's currently putting him at a little bit of free safety and moving him down if he needs to cover another guy. But it's got to be mentally. But going back to the question, there's not much we haven't heard in the last couple of weeks. We just know during the spring the position change was looking pretty decent for him.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking it down with these 2 gentlemen each and every week on Florida State football. This is our Florida State Seminoles live segment for 60 minutes every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. You got right there in the middle, Jason Parker from Chop Chat and Logan Robinson from Knoll Game Day. So please check out their coverage of Florida State football to get you all set for one of the more intriguing openers of the 2019 season, as Boise State makes that trip all the way from the blue turf. Maybe brings a little bit of luck with them. They may scratch off a little blue turf, bringing that with them down to Jacksonville to take on the Noles.
And the reports are that they've jacked up the heat at their indoor facility, trying to see what it's going to be like in Jacksonville.
Aren't they spraying each other too with water bottles?
Yeah, let me just break it down. I'm down here in Broward County near Fort Lauderdale. Logan's up in Tallahassee. With all due respect to the gentleman from Boise, you don't know what it's going to be like in Jacksonville yet. I've been to Jacksonville in the summer for ACC baseball tournaments and for football games. It's hot as hell in Jacksonville. It's going to be hot as hell. So make sure you're hydrated. That's all we'll say right there on that one. LSU wins the SEC championship this year. Kyle, come on, buddy. Come on.
So that, in fact, would be a good warning and word for all of us. You stay hydrated out there.
Seriously.
Stay hydrated. It gets awfully hot and humid out there.
All joking aside, get your bottled waters. If you're going to drink alcohol, Logan, make sure you stay hydrated. Yeah, Logan, I see the Bud Light added over there in the natty.
Yeah.
I got you. Seriously, everyone stay hydrated because it's going to be hot as hell. I don't care if it's 7 o'clock at night. It's going to be hot as hell at that stadium. That stadium just traps heat. It sucks you in, just like the Jaguars stuff. Wait, what? I'm sorry. Yes, I'm counting a Ravens preseason victory over the Jaguars. Let's go Ravens. Come on.
All right, folks, a few reminders here. Of course, subscribe to the Voice of College Football right here. And, of course, do your Amazon shopping using the link in the description section below. I understand people like Amazon, and it gets some frequent traffic from time to time. So use the link in the description section below. Get my weekly predictions. You can join our Voice of College Football community. Get the weekly predictions. I posted a video a few days ago that gave my last 10 years record of predictions, both in college and in NFL. So it can't be disputed. It's all posted on YouTube. And that's what you'll get when you get my exclusive predictions every week.
What's your record?
What's my record?
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me. Watch the video. I've got it all graphically presented right there.
All right, I'll be back. I'm gonna go
I don't know. I'm like 50. I'm usually in the 57 or 8% range against the spread, more like 80 to 82% straight up. College, I tend to do a little bit better in the bowl games.
So you're not elite.
What's that?
You're not elite.
What is elite, Jason?
I don't know. I was just taking a last sip of
Elite
water.
for us.
There. I just had one sip left.
No, I'm not an odds maker. I'm not an odds maker. I'm a guy that makes predictions in like 45 seconds. I take like 8 seconds of thought per game.
For entertainment purposes only, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, got it.
I have a question, Jason. Where would you rank the ACC in the conferences?
If we're going to say right now, I would say probably, I would argue probably fourth right now as a complete conference as a whole. I'd rank them slightly ahead of the Pac-12 as a complete conference. I'd probably go complete conference, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, ACC. All right, Mark, calm down. I'm getting to it. Pac-12, and then the AAC for those of them up in Connecticut. There, the UConn Huskies. The reason why now is because I will say it is Clemson, and then it is Clemson. Then who would you say right now is the second best team in the ACC? Let's say Syracuse, Miami, that group right there.
Miami.
The divide between Clemson and them is very strong at this point. Now, let's have this conversation come week 7, come week 8, after Florida State plays Clemson, after Miami plays Virginia Tech. If Miami does upset Florida, which Miami is going to beat Florida, 28-24, mark it down right now. You heard it here on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Shout out to Cam Underwood, State of the Union.
That's simply Logan. What keeps him on this show is just his penchant for saying that.
We do give the shout outs a lot. I'm not a little shout out. We do need more sponsorship here if I'm giving all these shout outs here. But seriously, I would say right now the ACC is coming off of a bad 2018 when your standard bearers are Clemson winning the national title, Syracuse I believe they went 10-3 or they went 10-3 last season, and then you have Miami at 7-6, Virginia Tech at 6-7, Florida State at 5-7. So right now the ACC doesn't have a leg to stand on as far as competing with the Big Ten and the SEC. But if Florida State is, let's say Florida State and Clemson are undefeated when they play on October 12th, if Miami and Virginia Tech are undefeated when they play on October 5th, and you have an undefeated Clemson and a one-loss Virginia Tech, a one-loss Miami playing for the title, or if Florida State can somehow shock the world and do like 2013, you never know, then the ACC can move back up there into that top 1 or 2 category.
The reason I looked so perplexed during the start of your spiel there, Jason, is we argued for like 10 minutes for nothing. You just basically stated what I was trying to state 25 minutes ago.
What I said was that
you just repeated that the SEC was the best conference in college football and the ACC was number 4.
I said the Big Ten was the best conference in college.
Oh, you said the Big Ten was the best conference.
The SEC was number 2. Please listen to me, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Okay.
Well, for as much as I would like to say that the Big Ten is the best conference in college football, the SEC is number 1. The Big Ten is substantially lower at number 2, and then there's another drop off, and then the other 3 are very close, but I would rank them the Big 12, the ACC, and the Pac-12 in some order. I don't know exactly right now, but I would also let everyone know that during the off season, I sort out this mess. I take all the results from all the non-conference games, and you got, Jason, you were bringing up exactly what this conference and all the conferences need to do to basically puff up their chests and say, hey, we are the best conference, or we're not as bad as we were last year. You got to win those non-conference games. The Florida State Boise State game is huge. Clemson beating Texas A&M doesn't necessarily prove anything because it's supposed to happen, but they can't let that be an upset. Syracuse is taking on Maryland. That seems like a marginal game, but they could lose that game. And on down the road, you're not going to win all the big matchups, but you got to win a collection of them. You got to win most of them, finish over 500, and maybe steal a few that you're not supposed to win. If you look at what the SEC did against their non-conference opponents during the regular season last year, they won those games.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I will say it once again. I think that's why the most pressure to me falls on Florida State because, Virginia Tech had their down year. They went 6-7, mostly because they lost their bowl game. Miami went 7-6. They also lost their bowl game. But FSU is the whole, what's happening with the failure of the ACC because FSU had that losing season. FSU has to have a strong start going into the Clemson game. Listen, Florida State is going to lose to Clemson. I have accepted this mentally. I've come to terms with this. Let's keep it within 2 touchdowns. Let's keep it classy, guys. But it's going to be what FSU does in those first 5 games leading up to Clemson. If FSU goes into the state of South Carolina on October 12th, either 5-0 at undefeated or 4-1, it is going to be a huge dynamic change both in morale for the Seminoles and as far as I think a huge dynamic change for the entire ACC. Because after that Clemson game, let's say FSU in a perfect world is 5-0 going into the Clemson game. They lose to Clemson and they're 5-1. Okay, last year after 6 games they were 3-3. So all of a sudden you've got that 2-game advantage. And your last half of the season does include you go to Wake Forest, then you got Syracuse and Miami at home, you go to Boston College, you host Alabama State, and then you go to Florida. Even the biggest critics would argue that you split those last 6 games, you're 3-3, you're all of a sudden an 8-4 team. An 8-4 Florida State is going to maybe get a nod over a 9-3 Virginia team, over a 9-3 Virginia Tech team when it comes to bowl seeding. All of a sudden, instead of going to the Sun Bowl, maybe you're going to the Gator Bowl, maybe you're going to the Belk Bowl. If FSU can finish 9-3 and just misses on getting out of the Orange Bowl as the top ACC team outside of Clemson, maybe you're at the Camping World Bowl. Kind of a stronger bowl game. That's why all the pressure's on FSU. FSU cannot have a slow start. Beating Boise State is extremely important because what it does there is it allows you, I don't want to say it like this, but it allows you to lose a game before Clemson and the world is not ending. If you lose to Boise State, your room for error is completely eliminated before you go to play Clemson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this Boise State game is one of the biggest games for Florida State in a lot of years. I mean, Willie Taggart has to get this win, and it does a lot on the recruiting trail too, because right now they're hot. If you lose that game, you're gonna lose some people.
Oh yeah, and we have it written this coming up this week. We've written about that here on Chop Chat. It's the most important game of Willie Taggart's career. I don't care if you're talking about Western Kentucky, if you're talking about USF, if you're talking about his 1 year at Oregon, or even last year the Florida game where it was the important game to go bowl eligible. This is going to be the most important game of Willie Taggart's entire coaching career to this point. If FSU beats Boise State, and I think it'll be a 10-point, 14-point win, but hell, if they beat them by 3 points, it's going to be, okay, we got this win. We've got this first win, the first opening game win since 2016, since beating Ole Miss. Okay, here's a little momentum going. Then you beat Louisiana Monroe. Then let's say you go to Virginia and you beat Virginia, a team that was competing for the Coastal Division last year. All of a sudden you're 3-0. Then you got Louisville, who's starting their new coach. 4-0, maybe NC State. Okay, let's say you lose to NC State. You go and play Clemson at 4-1, 5-0. All of a sudden there's a huge dynamic shift. You lose this Boise State game, the sky could be falling because there's a decent chance you lose to Boise State. Even if you beat Louisiana Monroe, there's a chance you lose to Virginia. NC State becomes a toss-up game. All of a sudden you're instead of going 5-0, 4-1 into Clemson, you're 2-3 going into Clemson, and the panic buttons are alarming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Captain Trips chiming in here with, I don't know what was being discussed at the time that he made this comment, but Mark is going to have fun with these 2 this season. We've already had fun, Captain Trips. We appreciate the comment, of course. We remind everyone that the super chat is on, so you can contribute to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football as well.
I'm here. I get to come and laugh. Yeah, I get to come and laugh on Wednesday nights, and I get to talk about Florida State football. So I don't think this is going to be nice. While I'm having to do homework here in a couple of weeks, I will be able to come on here and be able to talk Florida State football and have some comedy.
Don't worry. When you graduate, it'll all be better. There's no more homework or anything. You just got to pay your bills sometime.
That's it. Just pay those bills.
Just the bills. That's it.
How nervous do you guys get for a game or a big game?
I don't drink alcohol before games.
So there's that.
I have never had a sip of alcohol before a football game. Now, after a football game, yes, I've had a beer or whatnot. I still have the mentality like of playing the game. Like you got to keep your mind focused, got to keep your head straight. I have had alcohol one time before a game, and it was last year against Miami. I blame us losing. I had a sip with an intern for the station I worked for because she was cute. She was a Miami girl, but cute girl. You got to take a
Watch these stories, Jason.
What? No, nothing happened. I took a shot. Whatever. Moving on, and I blame myself. That's why we lost. Our bowl season streak is my fault. I apologize to the FSU football fans. I apologize to Seminole Nation. My fault.
Yeah, that's all you.
Chiba over that. I apologize.
I'm still young though, so I haven't really, legally been able to say, I drink before games and whatnot. But I really haven't. I don't get too crazy nervous. I'm just ready to see some football. Honestly, what are we 3 days away now? I mean, it's coming quick. And then, but if it's like a big game, like whenever we were going to Atlanta and Florida State was facing Alabama, yeah, there was some trickling nerves. You're going to the stadium 2 hours before kickoff. It's definitely when it's on a national stage like that. I remember going to Pasadena when Florida State was playing Auburn, and that was just through the roof. Your nerves are going crazy. Nobody was eating. My dad wasn't eating. Nobody, eating any kind of food before then.
Let's not talk about that Auburn game because I had my closest friend, one of my closest friends, he was getting married the weekend before because when they scheduled it, it was, it's after football season. Florida State, they may go to the Orange Bowl, but they're not going to go to a national title game.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that. To answer Jesse Sullivan's question real quick, Mark, please ask Jason if he would be happy, satisfied with the low-tier bowl game result this season. I would be happy with the Bad Boy Motors Gasparilla Bowl inside Raymond James Stadium this year. Honestly, it's about getting to a bowl game. Do I think Florida State will go to a decent bowl game? Yes, and we can talk about it next week. We can talk about it now, what our predictions are going to be for the season, because I think Florida State will go 9-3 in the regular season. I think Florida State loses to NC State. I think they lose to Clemson. I think they have a 2-game losing streak right there in the middle of the season. And then I think they lose at Boston College. I think they beat Boise State, beat Virginia, beat Miami, and they beat Florida to end the year. And I think that they end up as the highest-ranked ACC team in the college football playoff, which sends them to the Orange Bowl per rules. It sends them to the Orange Bowl since Clemson will go to the college football playoff. And I think they'll play Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. You can read some of these predictions next week on ShopChat.com. Sorry, cheap plug there, but I would be satisfied to answer this question. I would be satisfied with an Independence Bowl, a Belk Bowl, any bowl game, a Sun Bowl, the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. I think any of these bowl games, it's all about getting to that bowl game. It's all about not just starting the streak again, but getting that momentum into what I think could be a very interesting 2020 season for FSU.
Logan, I'm guessing that you make predictions. Is that true? Will you make a prediction on Florida State season?
Yep, we'll do one, but for right now, and I've been saying this for weeks, and I just got done on IG Live saying I've been predicting 8-4, so one loss added on to Jason's. I think Florida State does beat Boise State. When it comes to Virginia, I think Florida State loses that game there. Night game. Virginia is an up-and-coming team. Death Valley, I think Florida State might have – no, I'm just kidding. I think Florida State's going to have a really tough time there, of course, with Trevor Lawrence, who now I think is Jesus college football. Was kind of like going to be the next like Tim Tebow and showing off the love for him. And then I think I'm not insanely sold on NC State really whatsoever. I think it will be a pretty interesting game, but I think that it'll be at home this year for Florida State that they'll come away with the win. Syracuse, I think, will be a tough game for Florida State, but I think they will actually beat Syracuse this year. I think they beat Miami. I think that Boston College game, when they go there, it's always a tough game no matter what about it. I don't know what it is.
It's November. It's cold. That's what it is. It's cold in November.
Yeah, I know. Of course, be at 7 o'clock as usual at night. There's no way it'd be a day game. The last time they had one during then was like in 2013 when Jameis was there. I think Boston College will be a tough game. I think you might see a loss there. And then I think Florida does beat Florida State in Gainesville. I think
you suck, Logan.
I know it. So, but don't let any of my friends hear that.
I will say the one reason why I have Florida State losing to NC State and Boston College as opposed to a Miami or Florida or even a Virginia team is I think Florida State has the tendency to play down to their competition. I think the NC State game being before Clemson, it's a little bit of a letdown game. I do think that the Boston College game after beating Syracuse and Miami, getting those revenge wins, I think that'll be kind of that letdown game in the cold of Boston. So the difference between Florida State being a good team and eventually getting back to the elite status is not having to worry about those games that they should win.
And in 2018, Florida State took that to a new low in regards to playing down to their competition. They continually played down, and then beyond down to their competition.
Mark, where'd you go to school? I need to do some research this week. Where'd you go?
Where did I go?
Yeah, where'd you
I
go?
went to a non-Power 5 playing football school.
You went to UConn, didn't you?
No, I went to Kent State. UConn.
Okay. You're Golden Flash.
Go to
All right,
UConn.
we're gonna do Golden Flash preview next week.
All right, the home of Jack Lambert, Hall of Famer.
Tallahassee.
Antonio Gates, Nick Saban.
Oh God,
Kent State graduate.
You go ahead. Claim Nick Saban all you want to.
I'll claim Nick Saban.
Oh, claim Nick
Guy's
Saban.
the greatest coach in the history of college football.
Bobby Bowden, you said greatest coach ever? Well,
All righty, Mark Rogers, TV, the voice of college football, signing off on a Florida State Seminoles Live. Logan Parker, Noel Game Day. Please join him right there. And also, we got Jason Parker.
Kent State 3-9 this season.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, Mark. We're gonna make sure we mute his mic. But I obviously need to find a Popeyes chicken sandwich because he's in a great mood and he's throwing out bold takes left and right. So obviously I need to bring my Popeyes cup with me next week for game week. We're finally here, baby.
Maybe I will find myself a Popeyes down in Orlando when I'm down for the big game this weekend, Florida in Miami. We'll see you guys very soon.
Yes.
Thanks for the analysis as always, and we will see everyone back here at 7 o'clock next week, and we will see everyone in just a few minutes for the Miami Hurricanes live stream at 8 o'clock. We are 1 minute away. As soon as I can make a few clicks with the mouse, and we'll be right back. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
As always.
Bring spinach.
People are going to think we hate each other.